Come gather around, people. Everybody ready? Hi, I'm Leif, and glad to be here as a guest to show you guys a little bit about Hempcrete. And what we're going to do right now is, can you throw me that lighter? We're going to do a fire test because this thing's going to singe for about 10 minutes. It will not combust. We do take our safety seriously around here, so we've got our fire extinguishers. Thanks, sir. If anybody wants to time this too, feel free to do so. All right, so we're going to let that sit for a little bit. That's about 2.5 inches apart. Somebody start a timer. It's about 5:30. Okay, so in about 10 minutes or so, we'll see what happens. Hempcrete is basically the hemp herd, the inner woody part of the plant. After the fiber is separated, the flowers are removed and everything's separated, and then you're left with the herd. Well, many years ago, they were building with Hempcrete, and it turns out it's actually one of the best building materials out there. Not only does it sequester carbon, it's friendly to the environment and has many other benefits. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. So if you're familiar with that, I can elaborate a little bit more, but I'd like to try to progress a little bit faster as well so you get a full demonstration here. You always want to make sure that you have protective gear, which is here. So put up, don your clothing from your favorite boutique, and you can recycle it, because it's going to get messy. Another thing is lime, like concrete, is not very friendly to the lungs. And if you have any respiratory conditions, I invite you over to check out my candles, because they're really good. But back to Hempcrete. So lime is not very friendly, and we want to make sure we're well protected. So you want to make sure you sleeve up and get all buttoned up. I strongly recommend a good dust mask, and preferably a respirator. And if you're going to do this, it's also preferable if you do not have a beard, because then you can have the full benefit of a mask like this. You want to make sure you have your eye protection, and obviously your gloves. I'm going to use these gloves. The mix ratio is going to vary between between the different binder suppliers that are out there. So you want to be sure to check with them as far as what the mix ratios are. The one I'm using is going to be for a floor mix because it has a better setting time. And even though we're just going to be making a couple bricks here, it tends to set a little bit faster. Also, depending on the mix and on the build, there are certain things about it. Like if you're considering utilizing this for your build, you can't have Hempcrete. You can't have Hempcrete directly on the ground. You need to have a foundation made with Portland cement and then build up on top of that. This was a weak mix. Still no fire, so that's a good sign. So what I'm going to do here is start putting some herd in here, because we're going to be wetting this down before we add the binder. So these are corn cups. I've got one in there. Roughly 2, 3. Let's call that 4. I don't want to add too much water, because you want to make sure that the binder mixes really well with it. So I'm going to start off with 2 and get it really saturated, get it so that the herd regains that moisture it's lost. ideally, you're going to be mixing this in larger batches, full bags of binder, full bags of the herd. This is a demonstration just with smaller quantities to show you some of the different ratios that are there. Not too wet. A little bit of moisture in there that I'm going to remove. And you can check out some videos online as well, where some of the excess water does run out from the mortar mixture or the cement mixture. So this is what I'm looking at here. Just on the herd, you can see it kind of keeps its shape slightly. Just moisture. Now for the fun part. I don't think anybody had to sign a release of liability form, but I'm going to be very careful with this dust. I don't want anybody, especially the kids, to get anything. Keep it nice and dry. So everyone's going to get messy. Now the mortar mixer is going to mix that wet herd with the binder, then you're going to add the water. So you want to just get it so that the herd will add that water, and then the mortar mixer, the lime render, is going to do the trick.
Hempcrete is actually made of the herd, which is from the inner woody core of the hemp plant. So once you remove the fibers, it's the inside of that. So I don't know if you are familiar with what herd is, but just in case you don't miss that. And then what else he's using is lime and water. And he'll tell you what parts of each he's using.
My mix is a little wet, and I'll show you what I mean when you want to get an oatmeal consistency, like a peanut butter oatmeal consistency. And again, the mix ratios are going to vary between the different suppliers that you use, so I'm just going to add a little bit more herd. Hopefully it'll fix the issue. Rocket science. How are we doing on time?
Doing great.
5 minutes? We're at 10 now, okay.
10,
You want to just keep it going?
11, yeah.
So it's still a little bit wet, but for the sake of getting these into the forms, what you want to do is to have it so it maintains and kind of breaks after you apply pressure like that. It's still a little wet, but we're going to live with it. Now, if you can visualize having these would be the shutter panels. This would be an open inner wall area. This would be the external area. With the R value of 2.4 to 3, for this climate, you can get away with 9-inch walls, but the winters sometimes, can get to you. So 12 is ideal, and it all varies depending on how big your house is going to be as far as material cost is concerned. But to attain the best thermal benefit from the product to minimize the amount of heating and maximize the cooling, 12-inch and thicker further north. So if this is the wall we have, what you want to do is tamp the hempcrete to the outside areas. You'll have your 2x4s, depending on where your electrical and everything's going to be, within the forms. And you'll fill in the entire thing. So imagine just putting bucket loads in and tamping it down. And when you tamp it down, you want to tamp it pretty much on the outside, leaving an upper groove, which you may still kind of see on this sample here that there's a ridge on the top. And what happens is with each consecutive layer, it's almost like a Lego type system, so it adds structural benefit. This will petrify over time. So it's just kind of a hurry up and wait game. That sample there, for instance, is from October of last year, early October, versus this one here that I actually intended to fail to see how little of the binder I could use. This is the same binder I used, so I went a little heavier this time around. So that's this here. How are we on time on the fire?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. All right. Well, these are going to be bricks, so I'm just going to try to bring it flush here. And that sits for 24 hours, and then I can remove the screws, and it should hold shape. And again, it'll strengthen over time, so you just want to let it do its thing. When mixed properly, you can, after you form your base layer and you do your continual layers, you can move the shutters up as you go. So you're not really limited as far as time is concerned. You know, you can get the project done. We did I think it was an 8 by 12 building in Colorado 2 years ago. With 25 people over 3 days, we focused on all 3 major areas of the build. So now we're going to see what happened to the fire test. Boutique, I think this was only a quarter. So after 15 minutes, you still have some embers in here. So it'll glow, but it won't burn. There are hemp pellets. Hemp can be used as a heating fuel. It burns at I believe 8,500 BTUs or just over. So it's excellent for that application. But when mixed with the lime, it does have that fireproof benefit. Now I'm putting this as deep as I can go here without getting burned. And over 15 minutes, let's call that an inch, with a flame that was directed, or a flame that was on it for at about 2.5 or 2 inches in distance. So you can see how using a fireproof material is really beneficial. And I apologize for the mix ratios there, but I got a little excited. The other thing is, by using this material, you can incorporate other different mortar mixes that are friendly with the hemp herd. So you can do away with having exterior siding. You can also add iron oxide pigments into the mix and create really a work of art. You can build your home and make it look really artistic. So it's very, how do you say, I'm going to say malleable again. All right, it's a metal word, but anyway, I like heavy metal. This would be the wall mix. So after you do your base layer for the floor mix, you can go ahead and build your walls with this material. I intentionally used this mix here because I'm still conducting some tests on it to see how it behaves. This one here, I used too little, but I did it intentionally because I wanted to see exactly what the binder did. Here, I went a little bit overkill. Then again, it's finding the proper ratio. And also, bear in mind that relative humidity has a lot to do with it as well. So these things take into consideration. I know there was a hemp home built in Tarpon Springs, and Bob did mention that they had some issues due to the moisture that was already in the atmosphere in the curing process. This is a third lighter than conventional concrete, and again, it sequesters carbon, greener for the environment, and attainable. People are building homes with it. I have a second here, for instance. This is Mount House in Asheville, North Carolina, and you can see how they actually went with 16-inch walls for their build, and the architect incorporated other elements into it, which were quite interesting. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take the drawing. I can remove these forms in 24 hours, but I'm building it bricks here. So if you can envision that this was an actual wall, these are both the exterior forms, and this would be all packed with the material within it, within several hours on a proper mix ratio, you can lift those shutter panels up. And usually you do several layers at a time, and then you move your shutter panels up along the wall. And obviously, just a given, all your electrical, all your plumbing, all of that is handled before. And yeah, it's exciting stuff. No, this one here, I've screwed it all together. But on the on shutters for you know, a wall build, you unscrew it and just shift the panels up. Usually you're working at 2-foot sections, so within 2 hours or so. This stuff's really nasty, but guess what? Hemp cures it, so I'm just going to play it safe. Any more questions out there?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
60-pound bag of saccharin cost me about $4.75 at Lowe's. What's that going to cost me?
This is going to cost you more. On a 2,500 square foot home with 12-inch walls, I think you're looking at $130. Well, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. Freight really has a lot to do with it, because typically if you're building a home, you want to get all your materials in to minimize your transportation costs. Plus that makes it more eco-friendly. But on a bag-to-bag ratio, let's say these bags are about $30 a piece, and these bags are about $30 a piece. So a 32-pound bag, this one's a little bit under, but a 32-pound bag with a full bag of the binder is going to yield you roughly 4.5 to 5 cubic feet of usable material.
It's about 6 times what it costs for a car.
If you're building it all out of solid. But the manufacturing of concrete is talked about in this book here, and how environmentally it just doesn't do the trick. This one here is actually going to give back to the environment, where the other option is really taking it away. So,
have you tested it around the coastal area, like with the salt air and stuff?
well, Tarpon Springs in Florida, that's on the Gulf Coast. So they had some issues, and I tried to get as much information as I could. I spent a lot of time in Florida, but I think this is, it actually is more of a thermal benefit for heating, reduction in the heating cost. And when built right, you can drop it by 60% or more. And again, this all varies, because it's how the windows are installed. It's how everything else is used in the build to seal the entire house. Otherwise, you're taking an R value on one product here, but if the installation wasn't done, you know, to maximize that use of the R value, then you're not getting the full benefit. So, termite resistant, pest resistant. You obviously saw it's fireproof. So you have all these benefits, and it's a green product, so you really benefit from it. So what I really want to see is this education move forward and allow individuals like yourselves and farmers to be able to grow their own homes. Yes. Leif Erickson at Hempcrete. Yeah, you'll have to look me up.